My name is Juanita Immanuel with an I. I spell my Immanuel with an I. And I'm a missionary. It actually started in 2017. My second son, I pulled him out from a previous private school, and he was born left-handed, and his teacher, as at the previous school where he was, his teacher tried to make him swap from left to right. I don't think Nigeria has a philosophy of education.
Exactly.
We just know that education should equip us, help us know how to read and write. But basically that's just where it stops. The problem is our educational format here is actually working against us. It's not working for us because it's more of a lot of memorization. We memorize so that we can write exams and pass.
Good day, Ma. We are super excited to have you in the studios. Can we meet you, Ma?
Okay, my name is Juanita Immanuel with an I. I spell my Immanuel with an I. And I'm a missionary, and I'm the resident pastor of the Cross Home Ministries. I'm an educator, and I'm a homeschooler. That means that I homeschool.
Wow. If we can call this a gospel, would you kindly preach the gospel of homeschooling to us?
Okay, so it actually started in 2017. My second son, I pulled him out from a previous private school, and he was born left-handed, and his teacher, as at the previous school where he was, his teacher tried to make him swap from left to right, without telling me.
Wow.
And I didn't know that was what had happened, and my son shut down completely. He withdrew from participating in class, he withdrew from really speaking, because I didn't know what was going on with him. It was just about 3 or 4, and that was like his nursery 1.
Wow.
And this went on for like a whole session. I wasn't aware because they didn't tell me that this happened. So one of those days I was in school to pick him up, and his teacher came to me and was like, we don't know why Josiah isn't participating in his class. He just seems withdrawn and wouldn't speak, wouldn't do anything. So I'm like, are you serious? Because this child plays at home. He's very playful. He laughs a lot. So I don't know why he will be quiet in class. So when I probed further, she said, and she uses his left hand. I've been trying to I had to hold my cool, and I was like, why would you do that without my consent?
Exactly.
So to cut the long story short, it took us more than 5 years to correct that.
Wow.
Because Josiah wouldn't write. Learning ABC was very difficult for him. Because when he would write in the reflective form. His P's were like, facing the other side. His F's would face the other side, and everything that is supposed to face to the right would go to the left and stuff like that. And even his speech was kind of like funny. For those people who knew him at home, his pronunciation kind of like sounded funny as a child, but we understood that it was part of his makeup. So my son shut down basically, and we had to pull him out of that school. The next school we took him to wasn't very patient with him. Teaching would be going on in class, and they would just leave him alone.
Wow.
And he had to struggle to kind of like understand what he's being asked to do, and because of that he lost his self-esteem.
Wow.
He didn't think that he was as good as other people, especially because he thought people who are right-handed are better than him.
Wow.
So it has taken us a very long time. It has taken us years to kind of like hype up that self-esteem level, to tell him, look, your left hand is your gifted hand. That's the hand the Lord gave you. That's how you're going to master your skills. That's who you are. That's your identity. Don't try to be someone else. And this made me move from, at least I've been to at least 4 or 5 schools in this city alone, looking for something that spells education, because I went to a private school back at home where I come from, and we had Ghanaian teachers, we had Indians teaching, and it was a very top-notch school. And from kindergarten, then we had kindergarten, we had nursery 1 and 2, then we had primary to 6. And I loved going to school because school was like basically hands-on.
Yes,
and we had lots of practical things. We went to school at 7:30, and then we closed at 1:30 p.m. And there were breaks. I mean, we had short break, long break. We played. We had a playground full of big sand, and we roamed in it, you know, those kind of things. And I mean, I was wondering, so what's the problem with our educational system? Why do I have to keep my kid in school till 4 p.m. or, you know, get home around 5, 6, and we're trying to do homework or assignment or whatever it is, and it wasn't just making sense for me. So we basically had to go through therapy, personal therapy, because we couldn't afford getting a specialist to have a look at him. So my husband and I, we just went online and we read and read, and we had to sit with this child at home. And because he wasn't fitting in class anymore, it didn't matter where you move him to, he wasn't fitting in at all. He just would not speak, and he wouldn't do anything because he wasn't confident of himself. So we had to, when he's at home watching TV or eating or doing anything that we wanted him to do academically, because we had to start from ABC. So you can imagine a child, say 5 years old, and he's just beginning to learn ABC. When he should be learning his 3-letter words and stuff like that. So we would basically just cover his right eye, right ear, sellotape his hand so that he doesn't use it at all. So we're trying to reorientate the brain so that he can go back to what God originally created, and that took a long time. So apart from that, he went through a lot of bullying in class, bullying in school. They made fun of his name, they made fun of his speech, they made fun of everything. And he couldn't fight back. He was very soft-hearted. He would cry, and then that's sometimes when you're getting ready for school, he'd be like, I don't want to go back, I don't want to go to school. And you're like just trying to convince him school is good, and nothing was making sense. So apart from that, I have 2 kids, the first and the third, who are basically they're quite intelligent, and based on the curriculum for their classes, it was like you were slowing them down. Yeah, because my second son, based on his age, he's supposed to be, let's say he's supposed to be in primary 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? But if you give him a primary 4 work, he can actually do it comfortably. Yes, but he's now, because he has to sit in a traditional classroom, he has to go through primary 2 work, and he's like, what's going on here? So he became quite, you know, just sluggish, and he's kind of person that, you know, once he gets tired, he shuts down. Look, don't bother me again. I don't I don't want any more work. So if you have kids like that, you know, based on where I came from as someone who attended a private school, and a good one at that, I had to sit down and ask myself, what's the purpose of education? What's its function? I mean, what's, you know, I started thinking, what's wrong with the system? Why do we have to go to school, close by 4 p.m. and come home with lots of work? The parents have to do loads of work. My mother never did homework with me. I did my work by myself. Yes, I had a private tutor come in about 3 times a week, but that was just for mathematics alone, just so that I could brush up. And it was basically 1 hour. And in our time, when you didn't do well in class and you failed exams, we had summer school for people who needed to catch up and rewrite the exams before school resumed. But that system has been brushed away now. There's nothing like that. So you go to school, when you're supposed to close, they tell you lesson. What's the lesson about? And I'm asking, what did you do in the morning?
Exactly.
What did you do in the morning? Why do you have to have lesson? You know, the child is tired, the mind is tired, it needs to rest, they need to play. Playing is part of growing up, it's part of childhood. They develop by learning and playing. So you don't take that away from a child. So with all of those things, and I was just thinking, what am I going to do with these kids? And since I wasn't satisfied, I decided to pick up a master's program online with University of the People. I'm not done with that yet. I've just put it on hold. And my first semester, and the first question in class was, what's your philosophy of education? I don't know. And we had, because there in class we have to talk about the philosophy of your personal philosophy of education and that of your country. And after thinking, I don't think Nigeria has a philosophy of education. We just know that education should equip us, help us know how to read and write. But basically, that's just where it stops. And that one semester, my whole orientation changed towards education. How I perceived education, its purpose, its function, and all that it was supposed to do in a child's life. So basically, I was so thrilled to meet other students from other parts of the world, giving us the philosophy of their countries, what their educational system does, and you know, all of those things. And I looked at it and I said, wow, we're lacking a lot in our own dispensation. The problem is educational format here is actually working against us. It's not working for us because it's more of a lot of memorization. We memorize so that we can write exams and pass. We don't know what exactly it is we're learning in class. We're just trying to get by time. And at the end of the day, most people, most universities churn out graduates who cannot own the courses that they studied. They can't apply to real life. That should begin when a child is at a tender age. That's why education should be hands-on. Because, for instance, last term in school, by the way, because I'm homeschooling, 2019, 2020, the Lord asked me to go help a school. And I went there, I taught for a year into the COVID-19. And prior to that time, we were like in the Middle Ages. We didn't know anything about that. But here comes, you know, a life event that changed everybody's perspective towards life. So I had to learn how to communicate online, how to ensure that it's as good as real life. And then with all of that experiences, when I was done after that, I decided to pull my kids out of school because I was leaving, and I started homeschooling again. The Lord asked me a question one day. You're homeschooling your kids. How about other kids who can afford tuition? And I'm like, you know what you're asking me to do is a lot of work, right? Yeah, it's a lot of work because it is beyond, that's why education is actually beyond the secular subjects, right? If someone is going to say, put their child in my custody, that what means is what's happening in education is I'm not only going to be like teaching them mathematics, English, and all of those secular subjects. It means that I'm responsible for the morality of that child. And being a believer and being a missionary, I know that God's first mission to the earth is not secular knowledge, but it's first His kingdom. So the bedrock of school that the Lord helped us to begin last year, we're actually a year this month, September, and it's called the Remnant Campus, a homeschool foundation. So it's tuition free, and we're trying to reach out to missionaries, pastors, clergymen, and people who are poor, can afford tuition, to keep your kids at home. And basically we also have arrangements for other people who it's not because they are financially handicapped, but because they are dissatisfied like I was. So we have an arrangement for people like that that's separate from the other category of people. So with our school, we have things like documentary, because documentary opens your eyes to the world in all forms. There are lots of documentaries out there on different issues, social issues, sciences, philosophy, and all kinds of things. So we have documentary as an elective, we have photography, we have baking classes, we go on excursions. So I was going to say that, for instance, while teaching agriculture, I realized that most of our teaching happens in class when we should actually be out there witnessing with our eyes, and if possible handling what it is we're studying. So we went out on excursion to Leeds, and we're taking around their demo farm, and the kids learned a lot. And all of this, you would think that is just being playful and wasting of time. No. Now when we came back to class, I asked them to write a review for me. So for me, that's like teaching English and home economics together. So because education has to be able to marry at least 2 or 3 subjects together. They're all related. There's English in biology, there's English in agriculture, and things like that. So apart from that, when we study CRK, we have church history as part of our elective. So we study people who have lived before us in our world, who have done great work for God and giving their lives, and we're like, what made them do that? So we don't just talk about Bible. In the mornings we listen to audio Bible. Sometimes we handle the the Levy Bible. We flip through it, we read it, and then after that we discourse. Then there are other topics like in government. When it comes to government and history, we talk about it. So what do you think? If you were in a position to change things, what would you have changed, and things like that. And this is supposed to like help children think critically about the society and think of solutions to profess. So education is not about memorizing, and it's not about gathering information and knowledge. It's about appropriating knowledge. It's about training a whole person. It's about processes and purpose. Education has to have a relevant pedagogy, because it has to be something that is applicable, and that's what our society is actually lacking in. We cannot continually use methods that are not relevant to our age. When most of us went to school, what we're taught and how we're taught is quite different from this age, because this is like computer age, as we call it. And we find that most of our teachers still use the same methods that we're being taught with to teach this generation, and our curriculum isn't changing much. In civilized countries, teachers are allowed to work on the curriculum, also to add, to make it richer, and to also devise means of disseminating this information, because we're actually looking for citizens that are skilled and equipped to be able to carry the country, the nation, from one era to the other. So I look at the Remnant Campus as what happened with David's life. David, when he was anointed to rule Israel, even though he had not yet been installed, we are told in scriptures that a set of worthless men, people who were indebted and who were kind of like just tired of life, came and joined themselves to him, and about 400 of them joined themselves to him, and David was their father, David was their priest, David was their teacher. And all of these people who you would think that society must have relegated to the background, David was able to turn them by the Spirit of God, because remember, he was referred to as the lamp of Israel. David was able to, by the leading of the Holy Spirit and the voice of God, to turn these people into warriors. And in 2 Samuel chapter 30, we're told that these are David's mighty men. These were previously known as worthless fellows, people who were indebted. But what happened to them? There was a period of training that had gone through. They had followed David, and David had taught them not just the skill of war, but he instilled in them the fear of God. You will find that in the previous chapters of 1 Samuel, where Saul was after his life, he would continually, rebuke his men and say, why should I put out my hand against the Lord's anointed? What am I saying? Educational is total. It's not just cramming of facts and knowledge and all of that. So for us at the Remnant Campus, it is more about looking at the relevant knowledge and also instilling in these children God's perspective. Because I tell you, the future is coming and is actually upon us now, especially in the church, that things are no longer going to be like they were when we're growing up. And these children have to grow with the knowledge of God and with the relevant knowledge. It is like training a worksman, only that this worksman is very conversant with the voice of God and with the presence of the Holy Spirit. So in the days when it's going to grow darker, in the age of the Antichrist, these children should be able to stand for their God, because Daniel says that in those days, it is those who know their God who will take action. It is not those who have crammed secular knowledge. It is those who know their God who will take action. And why is that? Because that future has to do with God's kingdom. So yeah, we have this secular curriculum, but we also have electives, like I said before, in church history and all of that, to help these children to be a total human being. So I would like to invite you for a conference with Things Hub Africa. It's taking place on Saturday, the 17th of September 2022 at Agape Christian Ministries International Possibility Ground. I'll be there, and I hope to see you too. And principals, proprietresses, proprietors, and teachers, as well as teens, are all invited. Please, this is not a program for only teens. You're welcome, and let's put our heads together and pave out a way for our children's future. Thank you so much.